to everyone that has joined us on this exclusive and special webinar today. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening if you're tuning in from the States, and thank you so much for being with us. My name is Charlotte Venter. If we haven't met yet, I want to say hello, and it's so awesome to meet you. I am so excited to share some brilliant information with you today that has truly changed my and my husband's lives. So you will pick in my accent. I'm originally from South Africa, live in Australia. I've been here now almost 20 years, actually. We're going into our 20th year now, and just totally love this country. I'm so grateful for being allowed to live here. We moved over with our two children. Brandon is our son. He was about 8 at the time. He's 26 now, almost 27. And our daughter Robin was about 5, and she is 23 going on 24 now. We live on 6 acres just outside the sunny coast, and have my mum and father-in-law who live with us. I think Andre just quickly had to say to Mum, we can't talk now, we're just doing a quick webinar. But this is the beauty of what we do. It's sort of in between family and everything. So today we have an incredible guest all the way from Miami, Florida in the USA. It is summer there now. It is one of the most beautiful places in the world to live. And this guy, Brandon Cunningham, is an exceptional person. Andre and I are so inspired by this guy just to live life to the full. And we are so honored to have him today to come on and share a little bit about his journey. Now, friends, this topic today of this webinar is called 40-40-40. Have you heard about this? Have you heard or have you read the book called Rich Dad, Poor Dad, which is a guy called Robert Kiyosaki? He wrote that initial book years and years ago. I remember even when I was a child seeing Rich Dad, Poor Dad in a book, and only really in my adult years did I read that. And in there he talks about the 40-40-40 trap. You see, when we go to school, we get taught work hard, get good grades, then go to university, then you have something behind you, and then go and work for somebody for 40 years of your life, for 40 hours minimum a week, to retire on 40% of the income that you used to earning. Now that at the time sounded for both of us like a really good thing, but as we got later on in adult life, we realized that it was not going to give us the life that we wanted. It certainly wasn't going to give us flexibility in income because there's that dead set old paycheck, and it was not going to give us flexibility in time because you get 2 or 3 weeks a year in annual leave. And really for Andre and me, we always wanted more for our lives, and I know the same for Brandon Cunningham. So a little bit later I'm going to introduce my husband to you, and he's going to share a bit with you just his journey in life as a leaving school, going to the army, which was compulsory in South Africa, and then heading on to the workforce, and really what he was taught and what he found in his life. And our dream today is to inspire you to know that there is more. You don't have to settle. You see, most people today who don't live the dream life that they've always wanted have settled for less, and you don't have to. There are other options. So today we're going to explore with you a little bit and share with you what some of those options are. So friends, Brandon Cunningham, we are so blessed today that he's given us some of his time. It's late night there already for him on Friday evening, and tomorrow is the 4th of July, which is a big day in the States. And Brandon, we celebrate with you. What a phenomenal country you have. We love coming to visit the States, and thank you so much for your time. Now, Brandon Cunningham is a very successful business owner. Brandon has been around, done many things. I'm not going to share with you too much about his journey because he's going to do that, but I'll tell you that this guy is a father, he's a husband, and he is an inspirer of thousands of people. This guy impacts because he's made certain decisions in his life to want to live life to the full. He impacts thousands of people today, and today our dream is that he's going to impact you. So Brandon, as we introduce you, I'd love for you to share with the audience what you were taught at school. And Brandon, how did that work out for you? Like, what were you taught about? How do you provide for your family? And as you live forward, could you live your dream life? Thank you so much for sharing.
Yeah, I'm glad to be here with you guys. I'm going to enjoy this tonight with you too. We have so much in common. It's really crazy that our hobbies, our interests. It's funny that our lives, our paths crossed here at this company. Down to, I knew your son's name is Brandon, but even when I hear it, and he rides dirt bikes and fishes, and it's just really weird, but it's awesome. So I'm happy to be here with you today, and I got a little surprise at the end of this. So got a little 1 minute surprise at the end that I think is going to kind of tie this in together. So yes, live in Florida. I'm I'm just your average guy. And I in school was an average student at best because, to be honest, I was bored. My mind was not really, there was some subjects I could do okay with. There were some subjects I thought it was the very last exam at the very last semester to see if I could pass the class. It's not that I didn't know school was important. School's important. It's that I didn't have a desire really to go off into the college world. That was not, even though all of my friends were doing it. In fact, I had some educators that told me I was going to be nothing. In fact, they told me get used to working, at fast food restaurants, which is just, in the United States, just a low income job. And so I was fortunate enough to grow up in a family where my dad did the typical thing. My dad did have the job where I saw him leave and was gone. And when he got back, he was exhausted. He was a great father, but I saw what he had to do to provide for the family. But one generation above that, my grandmother, and my grandfather on my mom's side, they were entrepreneurs. And I got to watch their journey in life. And Charlotte, they just seemed happier than my dad, to tell you the truth. And so the 40-40-40 thing, even though that was something that, I didn't just leave high school and become an entrepreneur and start working for myself. Of course, I had jobs. And I hated them. Like, I hated people telling me, not so much when I had to be at work, but I hated people telling me, when I could leave and when I could take a break for lunch and how long. And as you said, I enjoy life, and to be told that you only get a few days a year to be on your schedule, that didn't work for me even at a young age. So
I love that. And I think so many people feel like you, but they feel like they're stuck in that job, right? And so we are taught that that is normal. To me, I think that is so abnormal. I think, the fact that you've got to go be there at a certain time, leave a certain time, and only have a couple of weeks a year which you can spend with your family, knowing what Andre went through, to me, that really is abnormal. So, we may look like we are the abnormal type because we have our own business, but I really believe that that is the only way that you can truly live what you want to live. Brandon, why do you think we taught this 40-40-40 rule or principle or behavior from school? Like that is what we taught. It's like imprinted in children. Why do you think that is?
I, you know, I think it's because it's the way it was, but decades ago. Decades ago, you could work for a company, and companies typically stayed in business, and you could trust that the company was going to be around, and you could trust that there might be some type of pension or retirement if you did your time. That changed many years ago. In fact, it started changing back in the late 90s. And certainly by the 2000s, that was over. And, but that's been 20 years ago. And it's only now where, many people are starting to realize that gone is the day that you can, get a job, and no matter what you do. Today I was talking to a physician, and she's really good at what she does, but because of circumstances, she's been bounced from one hospital to the next with different bosses and different pay. And she's definitely not in control of her financial future as a doctor that went to all the schooling, right? And so I think that it just takes a long time, Charlotte, for people to realize that something's wrong. And then even once someone realizes something's wrong, the question is, but what do I do? Like, this is all I know. Like, I just know, like, I fell into that. I got married very young. I got married when I was 21. My wife was 18. And I fell into the rut of life. As a self-employed, you talked about Kiyosaki, and that book changed my life. That's another thing we have in common. I graduated high school in 1989. So that tells you a little bit of my age. I'm 48. I'll be 49 this year. And I didn't read a book for probably 15 years, Charlotte. Like, I just started working. But I did love real estate. I'll tell you that. As part of what my grandfather embedded in me, they had real estate, and I would go and work for them in the summer, cleaning gutters and sweeping out floors. And I would show up with them, and they would just go get cash. Well, they were getting their rents, but I just saw the cash, and I'm like, I want that. Like, that's cool. I want that. Is that what real estate's all about? So I had a love for real estate, but we fell into the rut of life. We went from owning one small business to the next. So Kiyosaki talks about the 4 quadrants, right? Yeah. And 99% of the world's wealth is controlled by 1% of the population. And that doesn't even seem fair. It seems like, that's why a lot of people, when they think about money or they think about corporations, they think about, like, it's just greed. It's a bad thing. And the reality is, while there are people that don't do the right things when they get money, maybe they just buy stuff and live these crazy lives. The fact is this, the reason 99% of the people don't live like the 1% is because they're either self-employed or they're employed. They either have a boss or they've created a job for themselves that they still have to report to. And that was me. I had employees, but if I didn't go to work, there was no money. And that means you're in life. I call it life jail. You're in life jail, and you're not getting out of that. That's a life sentence. You're not getting out of that.
Sometimes that's even more stressful, right? Because it's not just you have to be there, but you've got all these overheads and additional responsibilities. Did you find that?
Of course. We would go on vacation, and my wife would get upset because I was constantly looking at the phone or calling back, because the vacation may cost me $5,000, but I would lose $5,000 or $10,000 at home because people would be stealing from me or not showing up and not doing work. And so, yeah, you run all the gamut when you have employees. And so what I needed to do, Charlotte, is I needed to cross over to the other quadrant. And that other quadrant starts with systems. And so when you have a system working for you, then yes, I love working. Like, I love to work. I really do. I wake up excited to work, and I'm never going to retire. That's not in my future to retire, because I just don't believe that would make me happy. Just, gardening, or that won't make me happy. So I'm going to be busy.
Fishing might make you happy, Brandon.
What's that?
Fishing might make you happy.
We're going to do it we're leaving tomorrow for 3 days, and it's going to be epic. It's going to be epic. It's going to be fun. We're moving into the great boat season right now in Florida. Yeah. So anyway, Charlotte, that was my deal. I did get stuck in business. I got stuck just working. We were making plenty of money. See, that's the real jail. When you're making plenty of money, but it's still, unless you're saving and then investing it, because you got to make like a lot. Like, some people think $100,000 is a lot of money, and it is. But I know for us, we were making more than that. And I had a hard time, Charlotte, saving and investing more than $1,000 a month.
Wow. Wow, wow, wow.
And most people do. I mean, right now, if you go look at the statistics, at least in the United States, over 70% of people in the United States have less than $40,000 saved.
Wow.
Yeah. And so, I was putting $1,000 a month away, saving and investing, but that was nowhere near enough. People have no idea how much money it takes invested for you to be good financially. It's seven figures.
Yeah. So Brandon, how did you change that? How did you move from the one quadrant of being in that jail to the one now of having freedom?
Well, I started with real estate. That was because Kiyosaki loves real estate and I loved real estate. And so we started down the real estate path back in 97. So just 7 or 8 years out of high school, we bought our first investment home. And, we started renting homes and building cash flow that way. But we became victims of the 2008, 2009 global financial crisis. We had, Charlotte, 13 investment homes and about $1.7 million US dollars in equity. And we saw it all disappear in 6 months.
No way.
Yeah, 6 months it was gone. And that was the same year that I was introduced to a different business model, something not so traditional.
Do you want to share what that is?
Yeah, it's network marketing, and it's something I was aware of, but I thought it was for people who didn't know how to make money. I thought it was for people who had time on their hands just to go do some parties. I'm like, listen, I just lost $1.7 million. I don't have time on my hands. I got to go fix some things. And the last thing I'm going to be going doing is go sell some stuff, right? And mostly I didn't do it or pay any attention to the industry. I didn't know the enormity of the industry, and I didn't know anybody that had ever succeeded. So I just thought it just doesn't work. It's for people who need to make a little money, and I'm not interested in a little money. I got to do better than a little money. And I was wrong. I was introduced to the industry, and our industry, the industry of network marketing or multi-level marketing, is like any other industry. You see, back when the real estate thing crashed, the reason real estate crashed in the United States was for one reason and one reason only: greed. Greed. There were houses being appraised for values they weren't even nowhere near being worth, but there were bankers willing to give people money so they can make their money, and it just escalated. You see, when the 2008, 2009 thing crashed, a lot of bankers went out of business. A lot of real estate houses went out of business. A lot of loan brokers went out of business. And our business is just like any other business in that people are going to make bad decisions in all walks of life. All restaurants don't make it. Most realtors that get a license never sell one house. Our industry is the same way, in that you may have heard of some network marketing companies that have not had success, or maybe you've been a part of one, but not all companies are the same. And I've definitely learned that over the last 10 years is the biggest thing I ask people sometimes, Charlotte, is this. You may not understand the network marketing world because maybe you've never done it, or you've maybe never made any money there. But let me ask you this, because I know you understand this. Tell me about the last 10 to 15 to 20 years of your life. What did you do? Traditional business. They tell me the story, and I just ask them. So let me just, if you repeat the next 5 years doing what you did the last 5 or 10, do you think you're going to be where you need to be? And the answer is always no. And I said, okay, simple. This is really simple. I can't make any promises, but I can promise you this: if you don't change something, nothing's going to change.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I can so relate, Brandon, because we were in the same position. And, I I also was skeptical about network marketing. I had never been a part of a company, but I had heard about it. And I just looked at my life thinking, if nothing changes, 12 months down the line, we're going to be in the same spot, but maybe even worse off. And then what about another 12 months and another 12 months? And so, at this point, I'd love to introduce my husband, Andre. Now, Andre is a structural engineer. Andre has worked all over the world, has earned some really good income as well. But even with that, it never got us this life of freedom and choice. And honey, would you mind sharing with everyone your journey of, school, leaving school, etc., and where we are today?
Yeah, thanks, Charlotte. For me, I was very much similar to you, Brandon. School was never a strong point. Up into sort of this 8 years, I was pretty good student, very high grades and stuff. But the last 2 years, just lost interest entirely, and really went down. And by the time I left school, I hardly left with even a decent grade. And so I went to the army from there because that seemed the logical thing. We had to do army. So I went straight into the army, did 2 years in the army. Coming out of that, I had to do something. So a friend of my parents, he was an engineer, and he said to me, why don't you, they were looking for a draftsperson. So they said, well, why don't you come in? And I just enjoyed drawing at school. So I went off and became a draftsman. And then from there, I decided that I would start to study engineering. And so I got a diploma and through the TAFEs and stuff, and that was where I started. But again, it wasn't enough. For me, I wasn't going to be happy just to be working behind some engineer for the rest of my life. So when our kids were, I think Brandon was 2 years old, I went back to university, and then from there, working at trying to study with a family at home and working. But I did that to get a degree, which I did get eventually. And then took me about another 2 years because obviously I could write on what I already had. And once I got the degree, I was then able to it left me open to become a partner in a business if I wanted to, because in South Africa, as an engineer, you had to have a degree to become a director in a business. So once I got the degree, I was now able to become a partner, and I then moved around a bit as an engineer till I found a small enough company where I could do that. And I became a partner in a company, and we then were able to sort of come by, really, more than anything else. We were just making ends meet, and Charlotte was working a full-time job. And so but there was enough money for us to live a reasonable life. But at the end of the day, it was never going to get us anywhere. But with the circumstances, obviously in South Africa, we decided to immigrate. And so when we immigrated, we left business. We got a bit of money out of it, and it certainly helped us in our establishment here in Australia. But getting to Australia, where I went straight back into conventional business, back as a standard engineer, designing buildings and stuff here in Australia, which I did for about a year. And then I had an opportunity to become a director in the company. They asked me if I would run the office up near our home where we are. And at the same time, I had an offer to go into business with two partners in a pretty big business. And so we thought about it. And obviously the most logical thing for us at the time was to take the other one and go into business with two partners. Well, that went on for, I think, about 8 years, nearly 10 years. At the end of that, there was always these promises. We were putting money back into the company, putting money in there. We're eventually going to sell this business. We're all going to make this huge amount of money, and we'd all be comfortable. Well, we got down that line, and what happened is, in fact, there was a big fraudulent thing that went on, and one of the partners disappeared with the happy world back to Canada with all the money, and we were left with nothing. Yeah, so we lost probably $500,000 in that transaction. Wow. So at that stage, we were pretty much desperate again. And so I took a job to go and work in Saudi Arabia. Wow. We did work there for quite a few months, but that was because it was good money. Again, it was a good, solid amount of money we were earning every month. And it was but again, there's no future in that. And it wasn't going to last. I couldn't live there forever. We were flying in and out every 3 weeks in, 1 week out, back in and out. And it just wasn't it wasn't a family life. It
sounds a lot. It sounds very familiar. Like, you know, from one thing, we have a lot of things in common. You know, I think it's probably because of who we are as individuals that we just don't settle for things. But Charlotte, I didn't tell you, my first job when Lynette and I were first married, we bought a metal refinishing company. I bought it from a guy I met at a motocross track. He was a great guy. And we basically cleaned elevators for a living all over Miami. But it's night, right? It's at nighttime. So it was great money. We would, you know, at 21, 22, we'd make $500 a night or maybe $1,000 a night, but it was on the road. We never were at home. We were working from 6 p.m. to 6 a.m. We were around horrible chemicals. Like everybody that would walk up would say, how are you guys in this? And, you know, well, it's not because we wanted to be. So we sold that. I mean, how can you keep an employee in that environment? It's really hard, right?
Yeah.
So we sold that. And I taught motocross full time for 6 years because that was my passion. Then we decided to have children. Then we bought a car business, and that was phenomenal. The money we got from the car business, we were investing in real estate, but it was just kind of one thing to the next. And that's life, guys, right? Andre, that's what you're saying. It's like life kind of forces you to make these decisions because you have to provide for your family, and no one wants to just get by. And so that's what happens. And before you know it, guys, and some of you that are listening to this know, before you know it, 20 years is gone. Yeah. 30 years is gone. Yeah. And you find yourself thinking, what in the world am I doing?
Well, I mean, that was similar to us. You know, we'd got that far down the line, and now I was back working for a boss again, you know, and I came back from Saudi Arabia, and we were doing a lot of work around home, but I was never home. There was one year, I think I was home for 6 weeks of the year. The rest of the time, you know, you're away. You don't see your kids. It's just a horrible life, really. And so traveling was I had to try and cut back on that. And so then they managed to help me out, and I was doing in and out of Saudi Arabia, but not as much. And we were working a lot of way throughout Australia. I was leaving home when I was in Brisbane. We're leaving home at 4:30 in the morning and getting home in the dark. So leaving in the dark, getting home in the dark, it's not a laugh. It just was not a laugh, you know. And then Charlotte came up with this idea of doing this network marketing, and I want to give it another go. And you know, we'd already had another kid, another conventional business, which was in a dental thing where we're going to have this, was going to wreak havoc for us and really bring us our life, you know. And in this dental industry with a new dental product, we're having it manufactured in China. Well, it just didn't ever come off, you know, it just didn't work. And so she was trying something else again, was now network marketing this time. And I thought, yeah, well, just try something else. You know, I didn't really have a lot of hope for it. I really didn't. I was very, very skeptical of it. But, you know, then right in the middle of that, as she was starting to have some success and we started to see some success, then all of a sudden, you know, my daughter had a big accident. And so she stopped, and because it wasn't the right company, we were back to zero in no time. So, you know, and so fast forward from there, she went looking for another company. She tried another one, and the same thing, that never ever took off. And so she found LifeVantage, and well, that is what changed our lives, you know.
Yeah, changed our life too. Yeah. Changed our life completely. Lynette and I were just talking about it. 10 years in the company, and our lives will never ever be the same again because of this company, ever.
Well, certainly ours will never be. You know, I mean, from working that 9 to 5 every single day, you know, from the road from 4:30 in the morning, to where we are now, where, you know, I'm now sort of semi-retired. I don't say well, I say I am retired, but I'm now employed by my wife.
That's good. That's good. You can't fool that boss. That boss has got eyes on you all the time. That's good.
But she does allow me to go fishing now and when the weather's right, and that's the thing. I now have choices. I get a choice to choose instead of being so tired on the weekends from driving all week, and I'm tired on the weekends. I never did fish because I was always too tired. Now I look at the weather and I go, that's a good day. And I go fishing, and so you have choices, and it really is a different lifestyle.
The thing that I would like to share with the audience tonight is fear controls most people's lives, and we all have different fears. Like, I'm fearful of snakes. I don't like snakes. I don't like snakes, right? I don't care to understand their behaviors so I can get to know them. Now, I love the water. And I respect sharks, but I'm not afraid of them because I've been in the water enough with enough sharks that I know their behaviors. I've studied them. I know when it's time to get in the boat, and I know when it's okay, right? And so most people go through life paralyzed by fear. And this is, if I could just give one message, is this. The fear of getting older and then looking back and not doing the things you wanted to do or not being present with your family. The fear of that is what should drive your behavior to do what we've done or what Andre and Charlotte have done. And that is it. This is what we've done. We just kept trying until we succeeded. We failed a lot. I failed a lot.
Oh, yes.
They have failed a lot. And that's the one thing we did is we just kept trying, because what's the alternative? Quitting?
Yeah.
Like, are you really going to tell your family, I'm sorry. This is it. This is as good as life gets. That just wasn't going to happen for us. And so I can promise you this too. We can't make promises about our business model because there are no promises. But most people are so fearful of network marketing because they're worried about what people are going to think of themselves, or they're worried if it's going to work. And I can tell you this. At the beginning, I was fearful. I was fearful because we started making a good bit of money, guys. You guys know our story. We went through the ranks pretty quickly. Had never done this before. First company ever. This is our first network marketing company ever. And within 2 years, we were making the same money that we were making that took us 20 years. All those businesses, all that money, it took us 20 years to get to about $20,000 a month in income. 20 years to get there, which is great income. We did it in 2 years in network marketing. 20 years, 2 years. I think that is a good equation, right? Then we were scared to death it was going to go away. We were scared to death, like, oh my, like, don't spend a penny, like, because I don't know how long this is going to last. Now, that was 8 years ago. 10 now present, 8 years later, 10 years into this, here's what I can promise every one of you. This business model assures you more security than anything I've ever done before. And why is that? Because you get to create a resume with people around the world. You get to pour into people so they know who you are. And once you establish who you are as an individual, and as we say in our industry, a leader, when you establish yourself as a leader, you will never have problems making money in this industry, because people will want to be a part of you and your success. And I have never seen that in the real estate business. I've never seen that in the automotive business or any of the other businesses I've done. I know today this company is extremely solid. In fact, we just closed our fiscal year and I'm under non-disclosure agreements, but I can just tell you it was a pretty good year. All right. And because we're publicly traded, you get to see that, right? I can tell you this company is rock solid, and you get to write your future with this thing. You can make the compensation plan's blind. you guys know that people don't get paid the same. Women in the United States, I don't know about in Australia, but in the United States, it's very common that a woman doesn't make what a man makes doing the same job. It's not fair. Or depending on your nationality or depending on your education, you just don't get paid the same. Guess what? Our compensation plan is blind. It's blind. It doesn't care if you're a woman. It doesn't care if you're 18. It doesn't care if you're 70. It doesn't care if you're African American, Australian, South African, from the UK, Spanish. It does not matter. It's the ultimate playing field. So if you are tired of being overlooked, if you are tired of being smarter than everyone around you and not making their money, people around you that have positions of authority and don't have the talent you have, if you're tired of that, I don't know too many other options you can choose that will level the playing field like our profession. And, even, typically only the people at the top make the money. That is so crazy because my enroller, I love her to death. My cousin, she enrolled us. We passed her like in month 4, and our income, she makes great income at LifeVantage. It pays for her daughter's education and that. But we made probably 10 times her income, and she signed us up. So forget that old school crazy, only the people above you make the money, because not in the right company and not with the right comp plan. It pays the right people doing the work, and it pays us fairly. So you can tell I'm pretty fired up.
Yeah, Brandon, thank you so much. Just listening to Andre, this is the very first time that he shared that whole story publicly. He's never done it. And it was so emotional for me because I could sort of relive and rethink all those moments we went through. Can you share with the audience that have never really looked into network marketing, what is the difference between a network marketing business and a conventional business?
Well, the biggest thing coming from someone that, I own businesses is you get to enter into the business world with such little risk. In the real estate world, well, here's the thing, guys. Most businesses fail because of lack of capital. If you have enough money, you can sustain bad employees. You can sustain bad decisions. You can sustain a downturn in the economy, but most people just don't have enough money backing them and they go out of business. Okay. And so in our business, it takes such little money and little risk that that's one of the biggest things I see. There's so many talented people, Charlotte, that will never leave the employee world because they just don't have enough money to buy a business or to invest and get in a business. So that's the biggest thing off the bat is the cold hard facts. I ask people all the time that are complaining about their jobs. I'm like, so what are you going to do? And they're like, oh, I want to do this. And I'm like, well, have you ever worked for yourself before? No. Well, do you know how much money it takes to own a business? No. And I'm like, so, I try to set the stage for them that it takes a lot of money to own a business. And the beauty is in our business, it doesn't. Like the most you can invest in our company is about $1,500, the most.
Mm-hmm. I absolutely love it. I love it. Every single person walking this planet has an opportunity to have their own business at low cost, low risk, as you say. Brandon, why LifeVantage? What do you see the future of this company?
My response to this changes as time goes on because the company is maturing. Why LifeVantage? Because I know what makes these type companies successful now, and I know why some fail. You see, there's been some companies that fail that have great products. And there's been some companies that fail that have great compensation plans. But let me tell you why companies survive in this space. And the one and only reason they survive, it's leadership. Mm-hmm. It's the people in the company. It's not the product. It's important, but it's not the most important. And it's not the comp plan, which is important, but that's not the most important. The most important thing for the longevity of a company in network marketing is the leadership on both sides, corporate and the field. And I can tell you this because we've been here since almost the very beginning. We have a group of leaders. When I say the leaders, I'm talking about what we call the master distributors. And I know you guys are just amazing, massive leaders, but let me just tell you about the Pro 10s because they've been around for a while. While we may differ in opinion on certain things, none of us have an ego so big to jeopardize this company or the families that are involved in this company. None of us. We understand how precious of an opportunity we have because we do have a great product and we do have a great comp plan, that we are willing to put our agendas aside for the betterment of this company. And when you can get 5 to 10 people around the world that run the big organizations or influence the big organizations to create that kind of mindset and culture, it's highly unique. And that's why everyone should be joining our company.
Oh, I couldn't agree with you more. I know each of them individually. I know the whole corporate team. And the first thing I find that a new person will say to me once they've been introduced to corporate and to the leaders is that they have such big hearts. It's about helping people, not the forefront of it is not money. The money comes because we help people, right? And that's always what we make our decisions about, based around, is the people. Brandon, in closing, what are 3 reasons that you would use to challenge our audience that may be in the 40-40-40 to really look at network marketing?
Well, we've discussed some of those. The one that I always try to just really, I like to just have what I call adult conversations with people. Like when it comes down to making a decision, I just will ask my friends or the people I'm talking to about this, hey, can we just have an adult conversation? And they're like, what are you talking about? And I'm like, the real world, okay? The real world stuff. Like, do you want to work for the rest of your life? Like, can you quit right now? Do you have enough money to quit and do whatever it is you want to do for the rest of your life? No. Okay. How long have you been working? And they'll say 10, 20 years, 30 years. Okay. You've been working 20 years, let's say. How much money do you have working for you? Because if you don't have money working for you, you only got one alternative. Keep working. Stay on the treadmill. Okay. So you've got to have a system working for you. Warren Buffett says, if you don't make money while you sleep, you will work till you die. Don't be mad at me. That's Warren Buffett, right? But it's the truth. So I'll ask people, how much money do you have working for you? And they'll be like, what do you mean? I'm like, how much money? If today was the last day you could ever work, ever, how much money comes in tomorrow? How much money comes in next month? And most people, the answer is like $1,000. $500, like their investments made them $1,000 last month. And I'm like, so can you live on that? And then I say, do you know it takes, like, it's about $1 million. $1 million at 6%, which is a high return, is $50,000 a year. Divided by 12 is $5,000 a month. Most people can survive on $5,000, but you can't live on $5,000. You can survive, but you can't live. You can't do the things you want for your kids. You can't take care of sick parents. When your parents get older and they start aging, how can you take care of your family and them? And that's a reality, right? And so you need more than $1 million. And so my question is, so what do you have, 200,000? You've been working 20 years and you got $200,000 invested. So when you work another 20, you're gonna have 400,000. That means you're going to make $2,000 a month. Are you getting the math here? So then I say, listen, you don't have to do this. Like, network marketing may not be for you, but please promise me you're not going to keep doing what you've been doing for the rest of your life. Yeah. Because it's not going to get you where you want to be.
100%. Brandon, I'm so grateful for your time, and I know so is Andre and our audience, and they absolutely love you. Looking at the comments, they're so grateful. Give Brandon a big shout out, team and guests in the comments if you've enjoyed.
I got a surprise for you, Charlotte. This ties in perfectly. It's 1 minute long, but you're gonna have to let me share my screen.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. It's 1 minute long. Yeah. I made this video just for you guys today. Because it's a Friday, right? So it's a work day. I did some work this morning. We recorded some videos. But I went do something today. I'm 48 years old, and I want you to listen really closely to like the last 10 seconds. The last 10 seconds are just epic that it got caught on tape. But I went to a place that I hadn't been to today in over 20 years, and I recorded it. So you gotta watch this.
Awesome.
Oh, that brought back memories. Just erased 20 years there, I think. Just slow myself down.
I love that. That is because you activated Brandon.
I do. I feel amazing on our products. I'm 48, but I don't feel 48. I have the brain of a 48-year-old, but the body is working really good. And I gotta tell myself, slow down, dude. Like, you are 48. The brain still knows how fast to go, and the body's willing to do it. But I'm like, the brain's like, okay, you are 48. And anyway, I just wanted to show that to you guys, because that's why people should do network marketing, is because you get to do what you want when you want. And it doesn't matter. Like, I don't live by a calendar. People ask me what day it is, and I don't know, because people with jobs need calendars. I don't need a calendar.
I love it. Brandon, recently a Wall Street analyst was interviewed, and he was asked, if you could pick 3 things right now that a company needs to have to survive COVID, get out even stronger, and be in the best place ever, what should it be? He said this: number 1, sell directly to your customers, which is exactly what LifeVantage does. We don't need shops. Number 2, you have to be in a proactive wellness product. I know, Brandon, you'll agree that we have the best wellness products in the world. We've got studies to prove that, studies that no other company has. And number 3, he said it needs to be a micro entrepreneurial business opportunity. In other words, work from anywhere in the world, and that's exactly what we do. So we are positioned so beautifully. Timing is perfect. The trend of health and wellness couldn't be better. The company, as you said, is rock solid. The leadership is incredible. If you're looking for a home business friend and you're on here as the audience and a guest today, we really want to encourage you to go back to the person who invited you, find out some more, come and talk with us. As Brandon says, we'll have an adult conversation. You can ask any questions you have, and we'll be open and honest about that. Brandon, from the bottom of our hearts, thank you so, so much. You inspire us daily. We love your posts on social media. Thank you for all that you do and for the lives that you continue to change daily. You have certainly impacted me and my family. So thank you so much. And everyone else, thank you so much for being on here. Have a wonderful weekend.